It's that time again. It's time for new Espresso Week from Miami Vice, maybe. Anyways, welcome to another edition of New Espresso Week. This week we are taking a look at Panther Coffee's East Coast Espresso. So, couple things. I think the name and the packaging. So generally I would think that this packaging kind of comes off a little cheap for a specialty coffee roaster. However, being that this roaster is from Miami, I think it's kind of sweet. It's all black, it's got the Panther kind of sneaking through. I don't know. I mean, when anybody thinks of Miami Vice, I mean, I guess if you're my age, maybe I'm dating myself here, but you kind of think of Miami Vice. Even though I never really watched that show, it still is very popular. I mean, like, let's think of Amazon Prime now has Grand Tour, which is the new, it's that car review show that used to be on the BBC. It was really popular, but now they have it. And they just did this like boat one, and the boat that they had, one of the boats was like about Miami Vice. So I think whenever anybody thinks of like Miami, they think of Miami Vice, right? The pink shirts, that sort of thing. Anyway, so I feel that the packaging actually fits really well from where they're at, and I could imagine the scene. I've never been to the cafe, so I can't say what that's like if they have, you know, a cafe that they roast out of. But anyways, yeah, great coffee actually. It has, the tasting notes are listed as very creamy, soft round chocolate, sweet black cherry, ripe coffee fruit, and sugar cane finish. So whenever I get a coffee, I generally go to their website. We'll review the coffee itself to see, because in this one they don't list any origins, they don't list any altitudes, that sort of thing. Kind of some more of the details. They also didn't list any brewing parameters. The reason for this is that they're using an Amazon shopping cart. So if you go to buy coffee directly from them, it's like an Amazon shopping cart, and it doesn't give you a whole lot of details on the coffee itself that you may get from some other specialty coffee roasters. So no baseline parameters. I guess I could have called them and asked them how they brew it, but that would take work, and let's be honest, I'm kind of lazy, so I didn't do that. Anyways, so I did mostly, really with this coffee for the entire couple weeks that I had it, I did my base espresso, so 18.5 grams in, 36.5 out, in about 30 seconds. Generally I'll go a little faster, loosen the grind up 22 to 25 seconds, maybe a little longer of an extraction time, that 30 to 35 seconds mark. This one, kind of the base parameters were pretty good. You know, brewing in that 28 to 30 seconds, about 36 grams out for 18.5 in, was pretty good. It's a nice coffee in that it definitely has that cocoa base, and it's not overly acidic to where if you're not really familiar with espresso, and again, espresso is definitely a fickle, yeah, so you know, the slightest variation, it can really mess it up. So really, if my whole idea to this is to open people up to the idea of specialty coffee, especially people who are like outdoor enthusiasts like myself who love to ride bikes, obviously, you know, and you just kind of love to refine, you probably also love to refine your diet and your nutrition and tinker with your bike or maybe your skis or your splitboard or whatever. So it's like, you know, I just try to help people, those people who are interested in kind of the finer details and the things that they like, into coffees that they would enjoy. And I feel one way to quickly ruin somebody in specialty coffee is to give them an overly acidic espresso that is really, really fickle, really hard to dial in, and you've got to be on point every day. So this one I definitely felt was really nice. Kind of a little bit of that ripe cherry fruit coming through. It does kind of have that sweetness, but it didn't taste like a natural Ethiopian that you would normally get that would really have that really berry kind of bright sweetness that would cut through the cream of the milk. Again, if this is the first review that you've seen that I've done, I also always brew a cappuccino, traditional cappuccino. So again, about 36 grams out roughly, depending upon, I will play with that. But then I will do 140 grams of steamed oat milk, just because I don't do regular dairy. But again, so that's kind of my, that's how I test all espressos. I'm not big on straight espresso. It's just too acidic. There's just too much going on. I like the milk to kind of tone it down. So when I look at an espresso, and also if we think about this, side note, why that's also important is if you look at the coffee industry as a whole, 60% of beverages that get run through a coffee shop are going to be milk-based drinks. So if you think about 60% of the sales are going to be lattes, cappuccinos, that sort of thing. So for most people, that's why they enjoy espresso, is it being blended in with that dairy of some sort. So that's why I always do that. And I felt this one was pretty good. Nothing that really knocked my socks off. So it wasn't like, if you haven't seen my Tony's Espresso review, check that one out. There's just something about that coffee that it's just so well balanced, so amazing. It just does some really great things. So this one quite isn't on that level, but I also feel that it was good enough to where it wasn't overly roasty. Like, so it didn't have this really roast finish that I was trying to mask by maybe extracting some other flavors or under extracting a little bit. It just had a really nice finish, enough sweetness to kind of cut through. But the flavors weren't so well balanced that I was like, wow, this is an amazing espresso. If I lived in Miami, I definitely would frequent Panther coffee roasters just because it is a good quality coffee. So if I had to guess, I would say this is about a 3.5 star on the specialty coffee review. Great, but just not amazing, not a 5 star. So if you are interested, maybe you live in Miami and you're interested in finding an espresso from Miami, definitely give Panther a go. I will also note I didn't get very creamy either. So, and again, sometimes that note's a little hard because they're cupping the coffees, and so I'm brewing espresso, so I'm not sure if they got their flavor notes from cupping versus brewing espresso. And then if you add in a creamy milk, the creaminess will kind of cut the espresso creaminess. So yeah, no creaminess for me. And sugarcane sweetness, I guess I would also kind of agree with that, because sugarcane doesn't really have any sort of that acidic, like if you think, and when I say acidic, I don't mean bitter, but fruits have acids in them. Like citric acid is like your like fruit, yeah, fruits, I just said that, but your oranges, limes, lemons, that sort of thing, you get a lot of citric acid in. There's other acids, I think like malic acid is in pears, and there's some other acids that are in a lot of espressos. And with sugar cane, it's just sweet. There's no acid to kind of change the flavor of that sweetness. It's just kind of sweet. So think if you just ate table sugar, it's just sweet. I kind of got that as well, and I think that's why I'm kind of giving it 3.5 stars, is that it was sweet, but there's nothing to kind of really make it complex or really kind of cut or balanced well with their base that cut through the milk, as I kind of look for. So yeah, definitely check out Panther Espressos. Good coffee. If you're new to espresso, probably also a good one, because when I played with my parameters, it didn't really get too crazy. So I could under extract it, I could over extract it, and at no point was it really ever disgusting or tasted really off or really sour that you can get with a lot of espresso if you're not dialed in. So it would be a great espresso to learn on. So yeah, so definitely check out Panther Coffee. And as always, coffee, pedal, repeat.